Brandon, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing very, very well. Before we get into some football talk, let's discuss this trip to Vegas. I had Leah Myers on last week, who's the president of the High Rolling Tides Alumni Association group in Las Vegas, and this is the second annual High Rolling Tide in Vegas Endowed Scholarship Poker Tournament. You're going to be a part of it. Caleb Castile is going to be a part of it. How did this come about?
Well, man, I guess just having the opportunity of being a former football player. And the thing is, man, I'm just so excited to be able to, meet some new people and go out and spread the word about Alabama football. So it'll be an awesome time, just make sure we be careful out there playing some good old poker.
That's for sure. I know the power and the reach of Alabama football having played here, but were you surprised when you found out that Alabama had an alumni association in Las Vegas?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We do have a big chapter in New York, too, but
right.
I definitely didn't know about the Las Vegas chapter until, the alumni told me about it. But it's going to be an exciting trip, and it's an opportunity for me and Caleb to go spread the word.
Yeah, if you're going to be in Vegas this week, keep in mind the second annual High Rolling Tide in Vegas Endowed Scholarship Poker Tournament with a meet and greet with Brandon and Caleb Castile at the Hard Rock Casino on Friday, the 22nd at 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Casino Center Bar. It is going to be a lot of fun. You don't have to know how to play poker. They will teach you, and it's not like the real casino where you can go bankrupt. This is more of a controlled environment and for raising money for the endowed scholarship. So get out there if you're on your way to Vegas and have some fun. Hey, let's talk about some football stuff while I've got you, and we'll touch again on the Las Vegas event before we close it out. But of course, you played here for Nick Saban coming out of UMS Wright. I think, did you sign, was Shula the coach when you signed, or was Saban the coach?
Coach Saban, I actually signed with him. He was the one that showed up to my front door. So
okay, I got you.
I was excited about that, so I signed with him when he first came to Alabama.
Yep, one of the first signees from UMS Wright. You had a chance to go a lot of different places. You came to Alabama, and you saw the process unfolding firsthand. And you got to see a couple of national championships as well in 2009 and 2011. What was that like, Brandon, to be kind of on the have a front row seat, be part of the program as he was taking Alabama football from, quite honestly, what had become an also-ran program and taking it back to the top of college football?
Well, I tell you, man, it was incredible, mainly because of the vision that Coach Saban had. And I tell this story all the time, and when I actually got the opportunity to talk to him, he said that we would win national championships, as long as we found leaders like myself that had great character and integrity and can follow the process. And so I was sold, mainly because of his vision. And the thing is, Coach Saban's going to be one of those people that's going to lead you throughout life, the rest of your life versus the 4 years or 5 years that you're on the football field. So it was an incredible opportunity, and I'm, feel truly blessed by God to have 2 national championship rings as well as 2 degrees.
Absolutely. Also, you came out of Mobile, UMS Wright, but you had a strong friendship with A.J. McCarron, who'd played at St. Paul's. And then in 2011, when A.J. takes over as quarterback, the two of you got to get on the field and play together. You caught 14 passes that year and a touchdown. What was that like, playing with A.J. and both of you being part of a team that won the national championship?
Well, it was awesome, man. To share those moments with A.J. A.J., I consider him like a brother. Congratulations to him. He just had his firstborn son, so that's awesome. But to play with A.J., it was a pleasure. Coming from high school when he was a freshman, I remember my junior year actually picking him off and taking it back 96 yards. That's my glory to fame against A.J. in high school. But A.J. is an incredible leader. I've never seen somebody compete the way that he does. I think that he'll have plenty of opportunity here in the NFL, but here at Alabama, he has done something special. He kind of held us accountable for everything that we did. I mean, it was nothing for A.J. to yell, fuss, cuss, whatever it may be, but he's just that type of person to get the job done. So I learned a lot from A.J., even though he was younger, and I'll take some of those lessons with me and with the things that I'm doing these days. So I appreciated him.
Brandon Gibson, our guest, former Alabama and UMS Wright football standout, part of 2 national championships at the capstone, now very successful in medical sales. Let's go back to 2009, because that's the first national championship. It'll always be the first national championship for Nick Saban at Alabama. 2008, that team was close. They had run the table in the regular season, gone 12-0, got to Atlanta, lost a fourth-quarter game to Tim Tebow and Florida. I've talked to some other guys on the 2009 team, Brandon, and they've told me it was national championship or bust, that there was no doubt in 2009 that team came into fall camp with one mission, and that was to win the entire thing. Nothing else would have been satisfactory. How good did it feel to set that goal and then to be able to actually do it? I mean, a lot of teams come in and talking about winning a national championship in 2009. Not only did you win it, but that's still the only team at Alabama to finish the regular season and the postseason unbeaten and untied.
Yeah, it was incredible. To set that goal, I'll just kind of go back to what you said. Everybody sets the goal to win a national championship. In my mind, everybody's like, we're number one. But there's really only one number one at the end of the season. And one thing that I will give credit to Coach McElwain is he always said we are the elite of the elite. Okay, and if we treated ourselves like that and we walked that way, it will basically show on the field. And also tearing down that rearview mirror was something that he said as well. And Coach Saban that year preaching, we will not be denied. And so once everybody bought into the process, it took a couple years for Coach Saban to instill it, and that was discipline, commitment, effort, toughness, and pride. 07 was it was a challenge. But to come back in 08 and go 12-2, we kind of saw our potential. And so then, coming 2009 season, just like you said, it was the national championship of bust. And we had some incredible leaders, man, from Javier Arenas to, Rolando McClain to Greg McElroy to Julio Jones to Mark Ingram, Trent. We had so much talent, and then the talent on defense was amazing too. So it was a sight to see. I think that's probably, people consider that team to be one of the best of all time. And it shows, because just like you said, we're the first and only, undefeated team to win a national championship.
Brandon Gibson, our guest here on the Gary Harris Show on the new Tide 102.9, your home for Alabama sports. So 2009, as I said, Nick Saban's only undefeated team to finish the season undefeated. He had so many good teams, but that's still the only one to run the table without a loss at any point during the year. In 2010, everybody's got you picked number one, man. There's not a single poll out there, I think, that had anybody else other than Alabama. And not that you didn't have a good football team, but I look back at that team, and I'm interested to get your opinion. I still think that's the most talented team that Nick Saban has had. You look at that team from Julio Jones to Marcel Darius. It just went on and on and on. That team was loaded with talent. Ingram was back. And yet, while a good team, that team lost 3 games. What happened in 2010 coming off the national championship in 2009?
Well, it's the feeling of being entitled. I thought that you're just going to, show up and do it again. And with any type of success, once you reach the top, the hardest thing to do is to do it again. So Coach Saban taught us that. He told us that, look, guys, you won a championship in 2009, get off your high horse and let's just go do it again. So we had all the right tools, and I was going to say the same thing that you said when it came to the amount of talent that we had on that team. One thing that we did lack, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is leadership. We did have some leadership problems in 2010, and it was just an effect that kind of not ruined the season, because anybody else in the country having a 10-win season would say that's a successful season. But it's just that we're so spoiled here at Alabama that, even losing 1-2 games is terrible. But, the first loss we suffered, I think that was South Carolina.
Right.
Up at their place. And, that place was, the media upset alert, the crowd going crazy. And we got in a dogfight and lost that one. And I think once we lost that one, it set up the next loss to LSU. And the thing about that is, it's contagious. Losing is contagious, because you get down on yourself. And when you have the mentality of, we're just going to win a national championship and that's the only goal, you think the season's ruined. And so the negativity got into everybody's head, and it just kind of spiraled. And we got our mojo back before the Auburn game. And due to some injuries, that didn't work out, and some superhuman by the name of Cam Newton kind of took care of business, for that third loss. But we ended the season in a positive way, and we began it in a positive way, too, by, I'm sorry to say this, but dismantling Michigan State. So it was a very interesting season. It was a lesson learned.
Yeah, you certainly demolished Michigan State to close it out. What about that Auburn game? Fans, I know games stick with fans, maybe more so than they do with players. That's why I'm going to ask you this. As a player, even though you came back in 2011 and beat them 42-14 down there and won the national championship, in 2010 to be up 24-0, dominating the game, probably should have been up more than that. The game, could have been, maybe should have been over at halftime. But to lose in the fashion that you did lose to them, 28-27, with the incredible Cam back, as you referenced with Cam Newton, do you ever get over a game like that as a player? Does that stick with you still today?
Well, absolutely, because the things that happen bad usually, stick with you more. But I don't have an explanation for the game. I'm not going to blame or point fingers or anything like that, but, we as a team take responsibility for it. Like I told you, it was lack of leadership and immaturity of our team. We didn't finish. Coach Saban always says, play 60 minutes. We didn't play 60 minutes. We can make excuses about injuries. We can make excuses about missed assignments or blown assignments, but I give credit to that team, Auburn's team, and Cam Newton and the coaching at Auburn for pulling that win, because we didn't show up the second half, and that was nobody's fault, but ours. And Auburn didn't beat us. We beat ourselves. They just capitalized on that moment. So just immaturity and a lack of leadership, and just the whole idea of not finishing and playing 4 quarters in that football game.
Visiting with Brandon Gibson, former Crimson Tide wide receiver, 2-time national champion. He'll be out in Las Vegas later this week on Friday night in Las Vegas for the High Rolling Tide alumni event there. It's going to be a great event. He, along with Caleb Castile, will be part of a big poker tournament and a meet and greet at the Hard Rock Casino, raising money for a Vegas-endowed scholarship from that particular alumni association. They're trying to do some good work out there and spread the word about the Crimson Tide in Vegas. So the football gods giveth, and they can taketh away, and much like 2009, when you bounce back from having the heartbreak against Florida in 2008, this team did it again in 2011, bouncing back to win the national championship. But the interesting thing about that season, as you know, was the game of the century in Tuscaloosa between Alabama and LSU. LSU wins it in a battle of field goals in overtime, 9-6. Somewhat like the 2010 game against Auburn, Alabama had numerous opportunities in that game to put it away. Missed a lot of field goals, missed some scoring opportunities for touchdowns, but you lose that game. It all worked out in the end, but what did that feel like when you walked off that field? Did you say, man, we've blown our shot? It's over. We're not going to have a chance at the national championship? Or did you still believe that there might be an opportunity to play for it all?
Well, honestly, it felt like a gut punch, and I wanted to puke everywhere. So it was a game of the century, and guys that are listening, you play the game of football to play in games like that. 100,000+ people on a Saturday night. It was an incredible environment for football. And I can remember, I'm kind of getting chills right now thinking about walking out of the tunnel. So you play the game of football to play games in that type of environment. Hard-fought game. We honestly, once again, we beat ourselves. We physically beat LSU. They just capitalized on a few miscues, and everybody blames our field goal kickers. I blame the offense for putting them in that position. And just like I told you, that environment is one that's very tense, very stressful. And so to put them in that situation to where they're kicking consistent 40+ yarders is very discouraging. So I blame the offense, not the one particular person, the entire offense. We didn't do what we needed to do to get them in position to make those field goals. But one thing that I will say that we learned from that game is that life is going to have challenges. You're going to get beat down to the ground, but what really matters is how you respond to it. And so when we went in the locker room that day, the coaches were just so upset that we lost, yes, but they were very encouraging that if we did what we needed to do the rest of the season, we'd see him again. And I promise you, I wouldn't lie to you guys. Coach said that word for word. If we do what we need to do and we handle our business the rest of the season, we'll see him again. And lo and behold, look how God works, and we saw him again. And I think you guys understand the result from that national championship game.
Indeed, you did see him again, and that's where I want to go with this. No disrespect to LSU, because that was a great football team, and if they play anybody else in the Sugar Bowl, they probably go down as one of the great teams of all time. But bad luck for them, and I guess good fortune for Alabama. You did do what you were supposed to do, and I know coming out of that game here, again, no disrespect to LSU, but I know the Alabama players felt like that Alabama was a better football team, and I got the impression even then, before the game was played in New Orleans, that you guys were licking your chops to get another shot at them, and felt like that you were better and that you would take care of business, and that's what happened. Was that the feeling of the football team that, hey, they beat us on our field, give them credit, but we're better than them, there's no way they're going to beat us twice?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think everybody knew that. You can really see it. We had our football banquet at the end of the season, and, we tuned into the show where they're announcing the teams that are going to play in the national championship. And you can just kind of really see our reaction versus theirs. They weren't too excited to see us again. And, our motto at Alabama football is, we want people to not want to have to play us again. We want to physically just beat you in between the lines for 4 straight quarters. And if it takes, another quarter in overtime, we want you to think when you walk off the field that, man, I do not want to play them again. And that's exactly what happened with LSU. No disrespect to the LSU fans or that team, because, yes, that was a wonderful team. That was a great team. They had great coaching as well. But we had a purpose, and we lived it out. So we took care of business there in New Orleans. We had a great week of preparation, and we had a successful time at the Sugar Bowl.
Again, to look at the other side, and I know you don't want to do that. You don't have to do that. But I've always thought, you're right, I think LSU, that's exactly what they said. I think they said to themselves, oh, my goodness, what are the odds that we got to play Alabama again? Because they beat you once, and I tell you, and I think you probably feel the same way. If that LSU team plays anybody else in the country, they go undefeated and go down as one of the great teams. Have you ever thought about that from the other perspective? If that had been you in an LSU uniform, and you were, saying, "Oh my goodness, of all the things, we got to play Alabama again."
Yeah, I kind of. You of course you think about it, but you laugh because you're Alabama and they're LSU. But the thing is, just to have the opportunity to play the game, in general, God has given us a great game to play. And, everybody jokes around and says, God's an Alabama fan, but, hey, it may be true. But all jokes aside, it's a wonderful game. It's a game that has taught me so much, throughout life. And, I'm carrying some of those values and some of those lessons, as we speak. So, the game of football was a blessing to me, and I think it is a blessing to all of us, and we need to make sure that we use it the right way so it can continue to be a sport that we can all enjoy.
Of course, we also remember the Iowa State Cyclones knocking off Oklahoma State. That's what made it all possible for Alabama to get back to the Sugar Bowl. Hey, I know you got a meeting at 9:30. Before I turn you loose, though, give me your thoughts on this year's team. They're trying to repeat as national champions as well. Nick Saban's had several teams that have been in this position. Only the 2011, 2012 teams were able to go back-to-back. What do you think of this team? Questions at quarterback, questions at running back, some questions on the offensive line, some depth issues maybe on the defensive front. What do you see from Alabama, Brandon, in 2016?
I see talent. I see leadership. I see a group of guys that are hungry to prove themselves because of all the doubt, because of all the questions. Everybody questioned our team. I think that was it 2013 when Blake started?
2014. Mm-hmm.
2014 team when Blake started. Everybody had questions about the quarterback, and Blake was just the right fit, at that moment. And
right.
Blake is a great player, but I'm sure we will have somebody step up and do the same thing. Okay, I have no worries about this program. I'm still surrounded by them. I go up and I work out at the facility. I see coaches around. I see players around. And I just see the attitude. I see the mentality of what they're trying to do. Yes, there's going to be some mistakes here and there. They're kids. I'm only 27 now, but I call them kids because they're still in that program. But you just got to teach these guys. You got to guide them, throughout those 4 or 5 years of life. And where we are right now as a team, I think, definitely we still need some work. But I have total faith in Coach Saban and his coaching staff and those players that we're going to be another great team. So I'm very, very excited to show up in Dallas and watch them play this year.
All right, if you happen to be headed to Vegas this week, you can meet up with Brandon Gibson and Caleb Castile. They'll be showing off all those national championship rings on Friday night at the Rolling Tides, High Tides, second annual Endowed Scholarship Poker Tournament at the Hard Rock Casino. That'll begin on Friday, the 22nd at 5:30 p.m. I bet you're going to have a lot of fun out there, Brandon. Like you said, be careful, though.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you guys having me. It's going to be a blast, and only in Alabama where you can do things like this and, enjoy the crowd, enjoy the fans, and enjoy the environment, and, be able to give back and tell stories like this. It just kind of brings back some wonderful memories, and I appreciate you guys having me on the show. Thank you.